It's been a year since our town's adults disappeared. Everyone thinks it was me. I was screaming at Mom when she exploded. One minute she was completely in control, shooting me the mother of all glares across the dining room table, and the next she was dripping from my face like congealed spaghetti sauce. Her voice was still alive in my ears, even with her staining my cheeks, dripping from my lashes. I could taste her in my mouth. "You're a child," Mom's voice echoed in my mind. "I'm old enough to drive a car," I had said, waving my spoon. I reached for my favorite cereal, but she slapped my hand away and placed a bowl of plain oats in front of me. Breakfast was always the root of all disagreements in the Sinclair household. Mom wasn't a morning person. My brother and sister had headed to school early. I couldn't imagine why. With your father supervising, Mom's grip on her coffee tightened. She was ready to blow up, but I was determined to change her mind. Her argument was that she didn't want me to get hurt, but I knew it went deeper than that. Mom wanted to ruin my life. She was an expert at it, already forbidding me from going out of town and enforcing a curfew. I said no, and I mean no, Mom said with a sigh. "You're inexperienced. When you're 18, I'll think about it." End of conversation. She prodded the table impatiently. "Eat your breakfast, please." "But that's not fair. Why am I the one being punished? You're giving Sarah lessons." She fixed me with the warning look. "You're not being punished." "I clearly am," I retorted. "I don't see this same energy with Nathaniel." Mom sighed. "Your brother is 1 year older. He is old enough to drive a car. I'm finished discussing this matter with you. If you disagree, you're free to move out and make up your own rules." I slammed my spoon on the table. "But..." Mom sipped her coffee. End of conversation. "You're not even being fair." Mom's eyes narrowed. "And," she emphasized, "of con." I didn't even want to hear it. She was so stubborn. Even more childish than me, and I was supposed to be the kid. Instead of listening, I pressed my hands over my ears and screamed in frustration. Something warm splashed across my face, followed by a high-pitched ringing in my ears. At first, I thought she'd thrown coffee. But it wasn't coffee. Thick, coppery, clinging to my lashes and blurring my vision. The sunlight filtered through the blinds, her bathrobe trailing down her back. She was everywhere and nowhere at once. The world stopped. Different shades of red covered the kitchen, painting the walls and dripping from the countertop. My ears popped, the ringing stopped, and then... nothing. I ran. Out the back door, barefoot, still tasting Mom on my lips. The grass was wet under my feet. Every step felt wrong, like the world had shifted and I didn't belong anymore. My chest was tight, my heart hammering so loudly I could barely hear the crickets. I could hear the sirens in the distance, but I didn't stop. I didn't look back. Houses were empty. Silent. Windows stared like blank eyes. Neighbors who usually laughed over fences or waved from driveways weren't anywhere. Not a single sound. The thought hit me, maybe it wasn't just Mom. Maybe everyone. Everyone had gone. I tried the Sinclair house first. The door was locked. Of course, I was still in shock. I fumbled for my phone, but the screen was black. No signal. No messages. No calls. Just silence. I ran to the park. That's where people usually went. Families, joggers, dogs. Today? Only the wind moving the swing chains. Only a crow landing on the slide, pecking at the wood. The world was still. The only movement was me. I screamed. My voice bounced back from the empty streets, swallowed by absence. No answers. No people. Just echoes. I stopped in the middle of the road, chest heaving, and asked out loud, "Where is everyone?" Nothing. Then I noticed the first sign. A grocery cart rolling down the hill. No one pushing it. It clanged against the curb. My stomach twisted. I shouldn't have been the only one left. The realization hit me like a hammer. Maybe I caused this. Maybe that morning, my argument with Mom wasn't just an argument. Maybe it triggered this. I shook my head. No. I couldn't think like that. Not yet. I needed answers. I ran to the library next. Maybe someone had left notes. Newspapers. anything. Doors creaked when I opened them. Books were scattered like people had left in a hurry. I opened a notebook on a table, half filled with doodles. Empty pages beyond. No clues. Then, I found a calendar pinned to the wall. October 24th. Yesterday. Red circles marked across the week, notes in the margins. But the last day? Blank. Just blank. A cold chill ran down my spine. I left the library, determined to check the town hall. Maybe there was a pattern, a sign, someone hiding, someone left to explain. Someone alive. The streets stretched endlessly. Shops were boarded up, doors swinging in the wind. I walked past the bakery, past the gas station, past the schoolyard. Every step echoed. Every step reminded me, I was alone. The sky turned orange, then red, then violet. Darkness crept in faster than I could keep up. And somewhere deep down, I knew tomorrow would be even worse. Because even if I found no one, I couldn't shake the thought that maybe they were gone forever. And maybe I was next. The town hall loomed ahead, its silhouette sharp against the bruised sky. I pushed open the doors. Dust motes floated in the shafts of light, undisturbed for what felt like forever. Empty desks, stacked papers, and a broken clock that had stopped at 3:17. I wandered through the hallways. Office doors hung open, revealing abandoned chairs, scattered files, half-filled mugs. Every room whispered a story of someone who had left in a hurry, or had simply vanished. My stomach twisted with a mix of fear and a strange, burning curiosity. I found a map pinned on the wall, red pins marking points across town. The notes beside them were brief: emergency meetings, alerts, supply shortages, but the handwriting was frantic, almost illegible. The final pin, in the center of town, was circled twice. A scribbled word beneath it: containment. Containment? I muttered. My voice cracked. I ran my fingers over the paper, trying to make sense. Was this some kind of quarantine? Or something worse? The first sound I'd heard all day, aside from my own breathing, made me jump. A faint scratching, echoing from the basement stairs. Heart hammering, I crept toward it. Each step felt louder than the last. I swallowed, tried to steady myself. "Hello?" I called, voice barely more than a whisper. The scratching stopped. Silence returned. My chest tightened. Then, movement. A shadow slinking along the far wall. I froze. It wasn't human. Not fully. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dim light. I stumbled backward, tripping over a chair, hitting the floor hard. My breath came in ragged gasps. The figure paused, tilted its head. It moved in jerky, unnatural motions, almost as if testing me. I scrambled to my feet, racing up the stairs. My feet pounded the wooden steps. Behind me, it followed, slower, deliberate, like a predator enjoying the chase. I burst out of the town hall into the empty streets. The wind whipped around me, carrying a metallic tang. The sky had darkened to bruised purple. Streetlights flickered on, 1, 2, 3, then out, leaving me in near darkness. I ran toward the river, hoping the water would hide me, hoping the bridges might lead somewhere. Footsteps echoed behind me, uneven but relentless. I didn't dare look. By the water, I paused, gasping. The reflection in the river wasn't just mine. Something darker moved beneath the surface, just out of reach. I stumbled backward, tripping on roots, the edge of the river lapping at my fingers. And then I heard it. A whisper. Soft, almost melodic, curling around my ears. "Don't be afraid. We're still here." I froze. My mind raced. Alone. Not alone. Gone. Not gone. What did it mean? The shadow at the town hall, the whisper by the river, the pins on the map. I had no answers, only more questions. And the feeling that whatever this was, it was only beginning. I didn't sleep that night. I stayed by the river, watching the water shimmer under the weak moonlight, listening to whispers I couldn't quite understand. Every splash, every rustle of leaves, made my heart leap. I thought I saw figures moving just beyond the tree line, but whenever I blinked, they were gone. Morning came reluctantly. The town was bathed in gray, the fog hanging low over the rooftops. I retraced my steps to the town hall, compelled by some mix of fear and curiosity. The doors were ajar, though I had left them shut. A chill crawled up my spine. Inside, the map had changed. More pins, more scribbles. I didn't recognize the handwriting. It was sharper, more deliberate. Lines connected the pins now, forming a pattern that spread like veins across the town. At the center, a single word, awaken. A noise from above made me spin around. The upper floor creaked under weight I couldn't see. Slowly, I climbed the stairs, each step groaning under me. The corridor was darker than the day before, as if the building had absorbed the light. Doors lined the walls, some ajar, others closed. Behind one, a faint glow pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat. I pushed it open. The room was empty, or so I thought. On the floor, a circle of candles surrounded a journal. I opened it carefully. The pages were filled with notes, sketches of the shadow I had seen, and symbols I didn't recognize. One page was stained, torn in half, but the words were clear. They are watching. Waiting. We cannot leave. They feed on absence. They awaken when we forget. A cold gust blew through the room, extinguishing the candles. Shadows pulled in the corners, moving independently of any light source. I stumbled back, my breath visible in the sudden chill. Then the whisper returned, closer this time, urgent. Remember. Before it's too late. I fled the town hall, running blindly through the streets. The fog seemed thicker, almost tangible. Shapes moved within it, figures slipping between buildings, vanishing and reappearing. I realized then that the town itself had changed. Streets twisted, familiar buildings distorted. I was trapped in a place that seemed alive, aware of me. By midday, I found the town square. The fountain was dry, cracked, its statues worn by time and something else. Around it, the air shimmered, and I glimpsed fleeting images, moments from the past, people laughing, someone placing pins on a map, shadows moving in corners. They weren't memories of me, but of this town. The realization hit like ice, the town remembered. And it remembered me. I didn't know if I was being hunted, or welcomed. But one thing was certain, leaving wasn't an option yet. Not until I understood what the town wanted, and what it meant by awaken. The fog never lifted. It clung to me as I wandered the warped streets, every corner unfamiliar yet eerily familiar. Buildings whispered as I passed, their cracks and peeling paint forming faces that watched silently. The air tasted metallic, like the memory of blood, and a low hum vibrated through the cobblestones. I returned to the river, hoping for clarity. The water was black now, reflecting nothing, but it moved in patterns that seemed intentional, as if it were tracing messages just beneath the surface. I knelt and touched it. Ripples formed letters, find the first. Questions swirled. The map, the journal, the pins, everything pointed to someone or something that had come before me. I realized I wasn't the first to be drawn here. Others had walked these streets, left traces, and disappeared. I followed the path of the pins, retracing faint clues the town itself seemed to offer. The streets led me to the outskirts, to a small, crumbling chapel I hadn't noticed before. The doors were locked, but a broken window gave me access. Inside, dust coated everything, but in the center of the nave, an altar stood untouched, glowing faintly as if it remembered the candlelight that had once touched it. On the altar lay a key, heavy in my hand, its metal warm despite the chill. Carved into it was a symbol I recognized from the journal, the same that had pulsed in the town hall. I understood then, this key wasn't just metal. It was a promise, a warning, a test. The whisper returned, this time all around me, awaken what sleeps. Remember the first. Or become part of the forgotten. I tried to leave, but the chapel's door led me back into the streets I had already wandered. The town was shifting again, and I felt its gaze, patient, deliberate, waiting for me to act. I realized that the town's memory was selective. It revealed, it hid, it manipulated. It wanted me to find something, or someone, before I could leave. A shadow detached itself from an alley. Not a person, but something with the shape of a person. It moved gracefully, silently, and stopped a few steps away. In its presence, the fog grew thinner, as though it could bend the town's reality. It spoke without words, a presence that conveyed thought. "Do you remember the first?" I shook my head, panic rising. I wanted to flee, but I was rooted in place. My mind searched, struggling to grasp memories that weren't mine. The journal, the map, the whispers, they all converged in a single truth: there was a first, someone who had walked these streets, someone the town still remembered, someone who had failed or succeeded, leaving traces I was meant to follow. The shadow extended a hand, not threatening, but insistent. It was the first clue I had truly understood. The key in my hand pulsed in response, and I felt the town exhale, as though waiting for me to choose, follow, or be forgotten. And I knew that whichever path I took, there would be no return to the ordinary world. I followed the shadow through winding alleys, the fog parting just enough to reveal fragments of the town I hadn't noticed before, staircases that led nowhere, doors with mirrors instead of wood, windows reflecting things that weren't present. Every step felt like stepping deeper into the town's memory, or its trap. The shadow stopped at a narrow courtyard. In the center stood a stone well, old and cracked, its mouth yawning like a silent scream. The air around it shimmered, as though the town itself held its breath. I approached, the key heavy in my hand, pulsing with a warmth that mirrored my own heartbeat. The shadow gestured toward the well. Hesitation clawed at me. Something inside whispered danger, yet I knew this was what I had been led to find. The fog thickened again, curling around my legs, urging me to turn back. But the key wouldn't let me. It demanded, insisted, pulled me forward. I looked into the darkness of the well. At first, I saw nothing, then shapes emerged, faces, hands, moments from lives that had passed through this place. The first. A figure moved among them, and though the face was worn by time, I recognized it from the journal, the first wanderer, the one whose traces had led me here. Their eyes met mine through the shadows, pleading, warning, guiding. I dropped the key into the well. It didn't fall. Instead, it hovered, suspended in midair, glowing brighter with every heartbeat. The shadow stepped closer, closer than I dared let it. Then, in a voice that was both mine and not mine, I heard the first speak: "Remember what you were given. Choose what must awaken." The fog surged, the town's pulse quickened. Buildings twisted, streets rearranged themselves into patterns I could barely comprehend. The first's memory flooded my mind, their fear, their triumph, their failure. I saw the choice they had made and the consequence they had suffered. The town remembered, but it did not forgive. The key dropped suddenly, striking the stone edge of the well. A ripple of light spread outward, washing over the courtyard, the alleys, the whispering buildings. The shadow dissolved, leaving behind only a faint echo, "Do not forget the first." And then silence. The town was still. The fog thinned but did not vanish. The streets were recognizable again, yet different, as if the memory of the first had reshaped everything. I held the key, understanding at last that this place was alive, aware, and selective. It offered paths, but only one could be chosen. And the path forward, the one I now carried, was a continuation, not a return. I walked on, the key warm in my hand, and for the first time, I felt the weight of the town's memory, the responsibility of following where the first had walked, and the inevitability that I, too, would leave traces. The town waited. The streets stretched before me, familiar yet strange, as if the town itself had reshaped to mirror my thoughts. Every corner seemed to whisper secrets, every shadow a reflection of some memory I hadn't lived yet. The key pulsed faintly in my palm, a heartbeat in tune with the town's own. I reached the bridge spanning a dark canal. Below, the water was not water but a shifting mirror, showing scenes from my past, the choices I had made, the moments I wished I could undo. A figure stood on the far side of the bridge, neither entirely human nor entirely shadow. My reflection moved independently, gesturing urgently. "Choices define what awakens," it said, echoing the first's words. "Not all doors should be opened. Not all paths walked." I hesitated. My instinct screamed to turn back, but curiosity, that relentless tide, urged me forward. The key grew hotter, almost burning, and the air around the bridge thrummed with anticipation. With a steadying breath, I stepped onto the bridge. The figure followed, silent, its presence pressing into my mind. Each step caused ripples in the mirrored water below, revealing fragments of futures I had not yet lived. Some hopeful, some terrifying. I realized the town did not merely reflect the past, it projected the possible, testing me, shaping me. At the bridge's midpoint, a gust of wind, sharp and cold, tore through the alleyways. The town seemed to inhale. Buildings leaned inward, as though watching. The quay's light flared, illuminating an archway that had been hidden by fog. Beyond it lay the well again, but different. Its stones were clean, unbroken, and the shadows inside seemed alive with anticipation rather than fear. I knew then, this was the culmination. To drop the key here, to face what the town had prepared, would awaken something beyond understanding. The figure beside me, neither friend nor foe, lifted its hand. "Are you ready to choose?" The question echoed in my chest. I thought of the first, of their triumph and their loss. Of the town, patient, observing, waiting for the right hand to act. And I understood that readiness was not certainty, but acceptance, the courage to step forward, even without knowing the consequences. I dropped the key into the well. Light exploded, fracturing into countless beams that shot through the alleys, the buildings, the fog. Voices rose, layered and harmonized, memories of every wanderer who had passed through the town. They were warning, guiding, celebrating. I felt myself lifted, suspended between what was and what could be. Then, silence. The key lay at the bottom of the well, motionless. The figure vanished. The town exhaled. The fog thinned, revealing streets as they had never truly been, both real and imagined. And in the quiet, I heard it, a single thought, clear and steady, as if the town itself spoke directly to me: "You have chosen. Now, walk forward." I stepped off the bridge, the weight of memory and possibility settling into my bones. The town was still alive, still watching, but I carried something of it with me now, a path forward, a responsibility, and the understanding that every wanderer left a trace, and every trace mattered. The streets no longer felt oppressive, they felt expectant. Every brick, every cobblestone seemed to hum with life, aware of my passage. I moved slowly, deliberately, absorbing the details I had once overlooked, the faded signs, the crooked lampposts, the faint laughter that seemed to drift from nowhere. The town had shifted, subtly, but not entirely. It was a living memory, a place suspended between what had been and what could be. I paused at the square where the first had begun their journey. The fountain was still dry, but the water stains on its edge glimmered faintly, as if remembering countless drops. For the first time, the weight of the key's absence didn't feel like loss, it felt like completion. What had been started was now carried forward in ways I could not yet comprehend. A shadow moved in the corner of my vision. I turned, expecting the mysterious figure from the bridge, but there was nothing, only a small token left at the fountain's base, a smooth stone, warm to the touch, etched with a single symbol I somehow recognized as my own journey. I understood, without thinking, that every choice, every step through the town, had left a mark that would remain long after I left. As I walked toward the town's edge, the fog lifted completely, revealing the surrounding hills and a horizon tinged with the colors of dawn. The air was crisp, the first true morning I had seen here. I realized that the town had not trapped me, it had taught me. The keys, the shadows, the mirrors, they were not punishments but reflections, challenges designed to reveal not fear, but understanding. When I finally stepped beyond the last alley, the town was still behind me, yet alive in my memory, stretching and breathing with each thought. I felt the pull of new paths, of choices yet to be made, and for the first time, I welcomed uncertainty. It was no longer a threat, but an invitation. Somewhere, a bell rang, not loud, not insistent, but certain. I understood it as a closing and a beginning. My journey through the town had ended, but the journey within me was only starting. Every street, every shadow, every reflection I had encountered was now a guide, a silent companion for whatever lay ahead. I walked on, not looking back, carrying the quiet weight of the key's lesson, That some doors lead not to answers, but to the courage to keep moving forward, to see the unseen, and to understand that every town, every moment, every choice leaves its mark, if only we notice. And as the horizon opened before me, I realized that I was no longer just a wanderer. I was part of something larger, a story both written and unwritten, and I stepped into it with steady feet, knowing that the path ahead was mine to shape.